All right, Ms. Megan Kau, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. How are you doing?
Good, thank you for having me.
Let's get started. You are running for city prosecutor. We're just off of the first debate. What were your thoughts about the debate?
Honestly, I actually thought maybe I shouldn't go. I knew that it was going to be an unfriendly crowd for me. So I actually contemplated not going because why go to showcase somebody else or other candidates that have, very out of the box thoughts that I don't necessarily agree with. But I went anyways because I think there needs to be a choice for the voters. I think that's what all 5 candidates that were there bring. They all are very good people. We all know each other. This is not like the legislature or city council where just anybody can run. You have to be qualified to run. So all of us have a rapport with one another. We've all worked either against or alongside one another at some point in time. And I believe that all of the candidates up there all have good intentions and are trying to do good for their community.
Yeah, I took a little bit of issue with the debate because just that format, I mean, there's some pros and a lot of cons.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get you on stage. The speaker who's comfortable has the advantage. You could tell that even if you have good ideas, if you have to squeeze everything into a 2-minute sort of soundbite, you might miss something, you might stutter, you might, have microphone issues. So they did a very good debate, but like that format for how we judge people, like I need more. I need to look at people's websites. I need to sit down and talk to people ideally. And I'm hoping that this podcast could be like a version of somebody sitting down and being like, hey, let's get to know the candidate and see what they're all about.
Good. Yeah, 90 seconds is very difficult to cram ideas in. And then at the end, we only had 10 seconds.
Rapid fire.
But those weren't rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Those are not questions that they were. One of the questions was regarding domestic violence victims. How can you talk about helping a domestic violence victim in only 10 seconds? That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. But so there were a lot of different like personality types and people with different ideas. What do you think separates you from the pack?
Well, I think everything separates me from the pack.
Yeah.
And I think that was very clear at the debate. It's crazy it's not crazy. This is what I'll say about the 5 people that are up there. They're giving the voters a choice. People say, I don't want to vote because I'm choosing between the lesser of 2 evils because everybody sucks. You know what I mean? But that's not the case here. We have 5 very intelligent people who care about the community and have great morals and great ethics. And so even if I disagree with their thoughts, I respect all of the other candidates. They're all very good lawyers. But I think stands me or why I stand out is I'm running for prosecutor. Everybody else is running to be judge or public defender or social worker or legislator. I'm running to be the prosecuting attorney. And I think that we have lost sight, or the community as a whole across the nation has lost sight about victims' rights. Yeah, I'm here to fight for the victim. Everyone else on that stage is here to fight for the defendant. And I'm not sure why and where that turn took as a prosecutor or as a society, but I'm a tax-paying citizen. I work very hard for my money. A lot of people do, and I want to protect those people.
Yeah, that's been like reforms that have swept across the nation recently. And it's almost as if there's a victimhood in being the perpetrator of a crime.
Yeah.
Like the society has failed somebody, so because the schools suck, or because of income inequality, or because of like the lack of programming for like anger management or whatever it might be, outside the box reasons, because society has failed that person, that's what caused that person to then do a crime. I think it is part of it. I do believe probably income inequality has something to do with it, and there are other factors, but the bottom line is there's lots of people from all different backgrounds who don't hurt somebody to get something.
Yep.
You don't have to victimize somebody just because you're going through a rough time. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just the culture that we're in. But online, there's a lot of outrage. Stolen stuff Hawaii. People are posting camera screenshots of people breaking into houses, issues with people breaking into cars, smash and grabs. What do you?
No charge.
So what do you think the real everyday person is more concerned about when it comes to what am I looking for in a prosecutor?
Well, I hope it's me.
Yeah.
I mean, I joke, but I think the everyday person that doesn't pay attention to the criminal justice system doesn't necessarily worry about the criminal justice system because he or she's never been there. And that's great, because if you've never been a part of the criminal justice system, that means you've never been a victim, you've never been a witness, or you've never been a suspect or a defendant. And so that's great. But we all see this uptick in crime.
Yep.
We all see this increase.
Especially this year.
This year, I mean, within the past 6 months, and it's bad. And what I hope people are looking for in a prosecutor is someone to correct that, someone to say, we're not going to put up with this anymore. We as a society are not going to just say, okay, well, you had a rough life, let's not charge you for your crime. You know, we've all had something in our lives, we've all gone through things, but you're just like you said, it's not an excuse to go victimize someone.
And I just like on a side note, I always wished that the programming that people do need for rehabilitation, I always wished it would be more about incentivizing them to complete the program, because I think you nailed it a few times when you said the people who are gonna voluntarily go seek drug treatment are going to. And then if you refuse to do that, you gotta go jail.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening, because it's so hard when people are addicted to drugs. And there are a significant amount of people who seek the programming, they do, they get their certificate,
Right.
they move on, and even if they fall off, they try again.
Right.
But then there's some people you just can't get them to do anything.
Nope. And you know what? I was a prosecutor for 5 years. I've been a criminal defense attorney for 10. I talk to my clients. I handle the roughest of the rough. You know what I mean? I don't handle small crimes. I handle murders, sex assaults, fraud. So I talk to my clients and I say, tell me what we can do to help our community. I talk to them about it. And I say, if someone has a drug problem, how are we going to force them into treatment if they don't want it? And you know what they tell me?
What?
Put them in jail.
Yeah.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah.
So I'm not speaking from this place of unknown. I deal with these guys every day. I talk to them. I see them. Drug addiction is such a hard thing. It's such a hard thing to kick, any type of addiction. And I think people that have never gone through it or have never dealt with people in their family that have drug addiction or mental health have no clue how it is. I mean, it's up and down and up and down and up and down forever. It's never ending. It's a struggle every single day for an addicted person or somebody that suffers from mental health. It just is.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it really is an ongoing thing. So sometimes when you watch the debate and you see people say, oh, well, we need to get them into this specific program, or we got to get them, well, I'll tell you what, it's hard for people to just conceptualize that it's going to be an ongoing thing. There's no finish line. I don't get the certificate from the drug rehabilitation and then, hey, we're all good. No, every single day for that addict, it's difficult.
Yep.
Every single day. So yeah, I hope people kind of take a more nuanced approach to how we deal with people with mental health issues and drug issues, because it's an ongoing thing. And I think we do differ in the way that we see things moving forward. I don't have the answer, but I almost feel like as a society, I think we're going to have to put up with more people doing erratic things, and we're going to have to try to find a way to protect ourselves, because it's super hard to get somebody to stop. The guy who's yelling on the street, who clearly has mental health issues, who is probably homeless, and is just literally yelling at the air,
I know.
or making you feel uncomfortable, and you're like, I don't want to cross the street on this side because the one...
I'll tell you.
You know what I mean?
Last month or a couple of weeks ago, I was in Chinatown and I walked home because it was a short walk. And it was 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I've walked through Chinatown my whole life, you know. But that night, I was super concerned because, and I don't jaywalk, but I'm walking down the street and then there's somebody screaming at himself, yelling in the air. And, you know, he's not being violent, but then, you know, I'm female, I don't have anything to protect myself, and so I don't want to put myself in that position. So I literally cross the street and jaywalk. I walk another 10 feet and there's another person. So I have to walk, I'm zigzagging now back up and down the street because I'm concerned about my safety. And I'm young and athletic. I train, you know, jujitsu, I own guns, and I'm scared walking down the street. I cannot even imagine how my auntie or my uncle feels walking down the street and they're 70, right? Like, I'm very concerned about that. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to put up with it. To me, as a prosecutor, I'm going to say we're going to charge these people. Whatever they're doing illegally, we're going to charge them and we're going to get them help. And I know some people are saying, well, they're homeless, they're mentally unstable, don't charge them, but we have to. I see no other option, and I know that I'm the only candidate that's taking this position, but we have to. And here's mental health is such a big thing for me because I've dealt with it. My parents suffered from mental health disorders, and I've gone through treatment for other people, right? I've helped them through it. I've walked them through it. I've been the lawyer for people. My sister's a neuroscientist. She's been the doctor for the people in our family. I mean, we've gone through it. So I'm going to charge them. And I'm going to teach the deputies how to deal with mental health. Because I'll tell you, you know, under Peter Carlisle, it was a great, well-oiled machine. He was an excellent prosecutor. But there were some things lacking. And one of those big things was mental health. We went into court and we kind of learned on the job. There wasn't a lot of training. There wasn't a lot of knowledge about how to deal with mental health. But since I've been there, you know, in my own private practice and my own personal life, I've dealt with it. So I'm going to teach them how to deal with it. So even petty crimes, if they're just stealing or littering, whatever it is, we're going to get them treatment. Because arresting them, giving them credit for time served, and then letting them go isn't doing anybody good. And I see it happen every day in district court. It's much easier to let someone with a mental health disorder just get credit for time served and let them go. And I see it even when I go into district court now, and I'm just like, no, we're not going to do it this way.
Yeah, that's totally exactly what happens. And for people, when I get the call from people that I know can't qualify for a bail bond, or they're just asking for information because it's super tough for them to like get information from the court, so they call the bondsman to like, oh, what's going on with this case? When's the court date? When can I go to court? I know there's the state of Hawaii runaround when it comes to calling HPD or calling the cell block, or hoping that you can get somebody at this the actual floor, the clerk. It's impossible, so they call us. And I just think to myself, man, yeah, I'm like, you know what? Here's what's gonna happen. Don't waste your money trying to hire me for this, like, being in a park after dark or the open container thing. They got arrested last night. Guess what? They will get 24 hours credit for time served, even though they got arrested last night at like 9.
Yeah.
They're going to court this morning. They're either going to be on the morning calendar, afternoon calendar. They'll get credit for the entire day as if they were there.
Yeah.
They might have been in custody maybe 12, 13, 14 hours, but they'll get 2 days. Plead out. Yeah. Don't waste your money on a bail bondsman. I don't think you want to take this to trial anyway. Like, just plead out, and don't waste your money on the person who sometimes, like, it's always something.
Yeah.
It's always something with certain people. Like, I get the same clients, and I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how to implement it, but for sure there needs to be some sort of programming where it's incentivized. You can't just go all in on, oh, programming, blah, blah, blah. No, it's almost like you have to, like, force or incentivize it, or else people, they just go through that same thing again and again
And I'll tell you,
and again.
when I was a deputy prosecutor in district court, we did have someone that was trying to run a jail diversion program, but you have to have the right people running these programs. You can't just have these programs and expect them to work because they're diversion programs or they're mental health programs. You've got to have someone that really does want to do the job and understands the job.
Super hard to do that, and in my dream world scenario, the state, which I don't want to sound like too conservative, but the only thing the government's good at is like writing checks. I'd like to see a dynamic system where different contracts are given out to different programming like solutions, where they have to compete and they have to sharpen each other, just like iron sharpens iron. They have to continue to compete and offer more and have actual results, like a report with actual results, not just, oh, let's get them into treatment. Well, how effective is the treatment? Do you have any numbers on how effective that treatment is?
See, I mean, not to badmouth anybody or anything, but whole probation, they check in with their probation officer, but they have to do everything on their own. They have to get into treatment. They have to, make sure that they're going to meetings. The diversion program under LEAD is like a wraparound program. You have a social worker that reminds you of your appointments, takes you to your appointments, makes sure you're getting treatment. I mean, it's like babysitting, you know what I mean? I don't know how else to frame it, but, and they're there all day, every day, reminding you this is what you need to do. And for a lot of people, that's what they need, I mean, having someone to check in with or call the color every single day isn't enough. Some people just need more attention, more treatment.
Yep. I've heard it called a warm handoff. And even in the private sector, I call it like high touch. We're in a high touch industry. Bail bonds is like an emergency service that people need right now because their loved one's in custody. But then it's also a high touch thing where you got to explain things. Then you got to go ahead and talk to the girlfriend or the mom or the dad and explain things again. Yeah. Then you got to go ahead and meet up, and then you got to explain things to the defendant. Once he's out, you got to follow up with him, make sure, how often, well, we got the same clients in a way because I'm billing them out and you represent them. How often do you call somebody and like they don't even set up their voicemail box and you can't leave them a message? Or they don't answer a phone call unless they recognize that number. There's like a high touch sort of dynamic or warm handoff that is required, because if I had somebody come into my office who's trying to turn in, if I didn't go with them to the facility personally, be like, oh, no worries, I'll lead you there, I'll show you where to park, I'm gonna go ahead and take you to the front, right to the sheriff or what. If I didn't do that, they come into my office and they'd be gone. Even if they paid, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yo, you paid me for this bail bond. Like, I have to be there. It's a high touch, or you need a warm handoff.
And I know I talked about this in the debate, and I always talk about this program, but Habilitat is the program in the state of Hawaii. And I mean, I don't get any kickbacks or anything from them. I just know, I'm familiar with all of the treatment programs. Habilitat is not just a treatment program. They're teaching you how to live. I mean, and they, Jeff Nash, the executive director, talks about I think it's 7 or 9 criminogenic factors. But that's what these people need to learn. It's not just drug abuse and drug treatment. It's how to live. It's how to be productive, how to learn to do something, how to learn how to relax, how to learn how to be, I mean, it's all around teaching. And we need that. And I'll tell you another thing that separates me from the other candidates. The prosecutor's role is to prosecute cases. And I know I keep saying this, but it's to objectively, and that's very important, objectively apply the criminal laws to people that are violating them. It is the Department of Corrections. That's their responsibility to house the defendants, to treat the defendants after they've been sentenced. It is not the prosecutor's role not to prosecute someone because there's no jail space, or not to prosecute someone because Halawa doesn't have a re-entry program. That is not the prosecutor's role. And I don't mean to skirt responsibility, but all of the major players in the justice system have their own roles for a reason, right? It cannot be the prosecutor's role to prosecute and to create a corrections program to rehabilitate somebody. We have separate roles for a reason, right? So I'm very concerned about the Department of Public Safety. I think that someone that runs Halava should be more like someone that runs the program that's discussed in Seattle is Dying, where they treat inmates, they medicate inmates, they rehabilitate inmates, right? Because the prosecutor's role is to prosecute cases. And if someone violates the law, they have to be prosecuted. It is the Department of Corrections, the Department of Public Safety, who has to be tasked with reintegrating this person back into society. So, I believe in treatment. I don't want to be the person that's standing on the stage amongst all these other 4 people saying throw everybody in prison. That's definitely not my message. But the people that don't want treatment, you got to force them into it, or they got to go prison. I mean, those are the options.
Yeah, and I appreciated how you actually answered the questions at the debate. There's a lot of like fluff and, not like dodging the question, but just giving the general answer that I think that crowd wanted to hear. There wasn't like the details where you cut right to it and talked about this is the job of the prosecutor. And that's important to be clear and have a message. Like, you know what you're voting for when you answer a question. Some of the other candidates, and they're all great candidates, I have had like interactions with everyone, but I didn't want to just hear, hey, we need to go ahead and get community input, or hey, we got to have this one program, and then I don't know the details or where the statistics from the program are coming from. Like, I need a quote. I geek out on this kind of stuff.
I do too.
I read peer-reviewed stuff. I want to know where these stats, but I just
I made one quote, I read it from the source, and I let everybody know this is the source, I read it. That's the source.
This is the one right here.
It is.
For the backstory that people don't understand, and that poor Judge Kalmer will never get the credit, and Judge Trader, they'll never get the credit that they deserve for this.
No, you're right.
This was a 2-year project where most people probably don't know who Judge Kawamura is, but she's like brilliant, and I never knew it. I had met her maybe once or twice, and I didn't know that she's brilliant. I didn't know how she got it, and I kind of knew about Judge Trader, but when they made that and I read that, I was like blown away. They knew the nuances where you couldn't just have supervised release or own recognizance release for everybody. You still need to have like a segment of the population with cash requirements, and you had to have like a holistic sort of like release, a palette of different mechanisms, because if you're to try to do like DC with the pretrial program where it's all government run, the Oahu Intake Service Center wasn't ready. And you were the only one who I think you're the only one who really you're the only one who pointed out and quoted that they had vacancies and they weren't even equipped for the current flow of people that they supervise. So you gotta have a plan before you just say, oh, we need to end this, like you gotta have a plan in place. And I think you were the only one who actually went into it and got the answer. So you're a no BS type of person. You went Punahou, you super smart. University of Hawaii for law school, right?
Undergrad. Then Santa Clara Law School.
Then Santa Clara Law School, so you got plenty of brains. But I feel like in the debate that like I didn't get to know the people personally. You know what I mean?
We only had 90 seconds, that was hard.
You only have 90 seconds.
So I'm all for these ideas, getting rid of cash bail, making sure that the poor are not reprimanded more heavily or more severely.
Criminalizing.
So I'm all for those, right? I mean, I'm not the person that says you're poor, so I'm gonna keep you in prison forever. But we have to have an alternative, and this study that was done on our own criminal justice system says we're not equipped for that right now. So for people to stand up there and say, let's let everybody out, get rid of the cash bail system, you cannot do that as the prosecutor. And quite frankly, I don't think that you have the authority to do that. If you become the prosecuting attorney, I don't think that you have the authority to just say, okay, we're not asking for cash bail anymore. Because now what are we going to do? How are we going to assure the public that these people who are charged with a crime are going to show up, right? And I said this at the debate also. If we start doing that, which we have, now we're tasking HPD, who are trained to do other things than look for people that have jumped bail, right? We have them having to spend time and resources looking for all these guys that are out on no bail because they were just released and they won't come back to court. Right now we have a system for that. We have private bondsmen. They can go out and do that, right? And I think that the bondsmen do a good job, you guys and everybody else on the island, of making sure that person comes to court, right? Every time I have an incident, I can't find my client, I call the bondsman, I say, hey, find my client. They find them. You know, it's so this system works. They want to start releasing them, then the only people that can come bring them back is HPD or sheriffs. Now we are wasting resources and trained people to go look for people. I know it doesn't make sense to pay them for that. That's our taxpayer money. Already we're short, right? Already patrol is short. And that's why if something happens, a kupuna gets robbed in the middle of the street, it takes a while to get a police officer. They're short, right? So why now spend resources and make the sheriffs and police officers go look for these people when we're not set up to do it that way?
Yeah, it's not right because it's like, oh, we made this complicated system. We let somebody out without any accountability. Oh, now HPD, go clean up our mess.
Yeah.
Or, oh, sheriffs, sorry, go look for them. Go clean up our mess again. Go comb through the homeless encampment or try to track. It's so hard to track somebody down.
It is.
Do one bounty hunt and you will see just how difficult it is when you don't have like conditions or something. Like people have to have skin in the game. Otherwise, there's no incentive to come back to court.
Right.
There's zero incentive. So definitely you need many options so that the judge can make the proper choice. And traditionally, it probably does make the most amount of sense. You need to prosecute people, right?
Right.
And they need to show up for you to prosecute.
Up.
Although we have one story where you were able to prosecute somebody who wasn't there, and you're the only prosecutor I ever saw. Guy jumped bail, he's on the mainland, he was a pimp.
Joseph Vaimili.
And I was like, how did this prosecutor continue on with the trial when the guy's not even there? So talk to me about Joseph Vaimili.
Okay, that's a significant case in Hawaii, I will say. It is the very first promoting prostitution case ever to be tried in Hawaii. It was 2008 or 9 when I was a prosecutor. This is a terrifying story, okay? Lori Whalen was the victim. He didn't bring her here. She came to Hawaii on her own. But as soon as she got here, he terrorized her. He beat her in the middle of an alley in Waikiki. We started trial. He was there for the jury selection. And even though I had asked the court to hold him no bail, the court denied my motion and was saying he's not a risk. Well, he was a risk because this guy dug out the first day that we had our witnesses. And I said, well, Judge, I want to go in absentia, which I didn't know if anyone had done it before, but I was willing to do it. And that basically just means we're going to go through the trial and the defendant's not going to be there.
Which never happens.
Never happens.
I've never seen it, never once.
Yep, and I said, Judge, I want you to instruct the jury that they cannot hold it against him. They cannot speculate why he's not here. Of course, we didn't tell the jury that he dug out and he skipped bail. And so the judge instructed them that they shouldn't consider why he's not there, that he has the right to be there or not be there. And we convicted Joseph Vaimili of promoting prostitution in the first degree. And
awesome.
I believe he's still in Halawa as we sit here today.
Very good.
Yeah.
Because what the super far left crowd doesn't understand, and I've been to ACLU meetings where they specifically say we're against all forms of pretrial detention. I'm like, yo, there are certain guys out there where the charges are so crazy and extreme, and there's such a risk that you gotta hold them without bail. And then I don't want to vent too much, but the bail bondsman gets blamed as if we're the problem. You know what I mean? Because they set the bail really high because of the risk factors
Right.
involved. And if you can't get somebody to bail you out because a bondsman sniffs a bad deal, it's not about the money, it's about the risk factors.
Right.
I can't depend on a pimp who has connections on the mainland
Yep.
to go all the way through till sentencing.
Yep. And you know what? I was right.
You're
right. Because not only did he dig out during trial, I think
He
the
cut the
defense-
monitor. He cut the monitor. He
Yes.
was on the anklet. He
Correct.
freaking cut that out.
Yes, he did.
And he did it. He was smart. I remember because I was talking to a bounty hunter on this. He did it right when the state of Hawaii monitoring system at that time, like if you dug out like Friday after 4:15 or whatever,
No
you
one's
can
coming for you.
you had a weekend or a 3-day weekend where you could just dig out, and
Yeah.
they didn't even know till like after they
Yeah.
came back into the office.
Yeah. And it's not just that, he was gone for a long time. They had to send, I believe it was a specialized task force looking for him in California. I mean, that's where they found him. And it was for a while. I mean, they didn't just find him the next weekend. He was gone for a while.
Yep. It's super hard to find people, especially
course.
when they want to remain, you know, off the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing. It's not just whether they're going to come back to court. I was very concerned for Lori Whalen's safety. This guy had beaten her. I mean, things that people couldn't even imagine are possible. And she was getting notes at her house in the mainland. We knew that there was an inmate here that had drawn a map to her house. So it wasn't like I was just asking the court to hold him because I didn't like the guy, right? Or I had something against Joseph Vaimili. These are the things that I knew as the prosecutor, and I was concerned for the victim's safety. So when we're talking about bail, we're not just talking about is the guy going to show up, is he or she going to show up. We're talking about the witness and the victim's safety. And I think that's overlooked a lot by courts because we don't see a lot of violence here. Even in the federal system, people that cooperate with the government, we don't see violence against those people. Whereas in the mainland, people are dying, right? I mean, they're going after victims, witnesses, cooperating defendants. We don't see that here, so I think most of the time, people become complacent. Judges are like, well, that's not going to happen. And, you know, that's what this court did. You know, they let him stay out.
There's nothing wrong with the court making the move and just saying no bail in certain extreme cases. You don't let it happen regularly all the time for lesser charges, but on Netflix, I was just watching the Aaron Hernandez documentary.
Everyone keeps telling me about that.
Oh, it's really good, but no.
I don't have Netflix.
Yeah, no, the court. Well, you got to get yourself some Netflix. Like, he killed 2 people for spilling a drink on his shoe. That was terrifying.
That's crazy.
But they did the right thing because he was held without bail. They had a bail hearing, which is, you got to have a bail hearing. You got to assess the risks, and they held him without bail. They didn't do the artificial thing where, once again, I feel like the bail bondsman, we take the brunt of this, set the bail at like $1 million, knowing that the guy cannot post $1 million bail, but then, oh, we didn't take away his right to bail.
Right.
But you kind of did by making $1 million.
Yeah.
But it was with cause.
Right.
It's because some people are so tremendously dangerous or they're a flight risk that, you know, you look between the lines and, hey, set the bail at $2 million. Or I say sometimes just make the move. Say no bail.
Well, so
Say no bail. Yeah.
So for all those liberals out there, it's not like the court can hold just anybody no bail. There's a statute that applies. It has to be a serious offense, meaning it has to be punishable by life in prison. There has to be a rational belief or reason to believe that the person is either going to skip bail and not show up, intimidate a witness, or recommit. So there's certain factors that the court has to find are true before they hold somebody no bail. So we can't just start picking people off the street and holding them without bail. It's not allowed.
I did not know that, but it's nice to have somebody school me on that, a real attorney. Yeah, I didn't know that because, because there's certain guys that are like, oh my God. But then there is, on the flip side, they do have some ammunition, the far left, where sometimes people get their bail set way too high.
Yes.
And it's just like,
And that does happen.
yeah,
Yeah. You know.
a lot of nuance there.
But for right now, my answer to that is we don't have any alternative. Yeah, if the Department of Public Safety was set up so that we did have an alternative, we could hold people without considering a financial aspect, then great, you know, it would be great. But as this report says from December of 2018, we're not set up for that right now.
Yeah. And I challenge anybody, I just did this because, you know, I geek out on stuff like this. You gotta go to arraignment and plea either on Monday or Thursday, Judge Kawamura's court, for the people that like, they don't bail out. Oh my God, I feel so bad. They're so disrespectful to her.
Yeah.
They talk, the moment the closed circuit television goes live and then the sound comes in, you can't just get that group of defendants. There could be like 5 guys in there.
Right.
They laughing, talking story, they not taking it seriously. I've literally seen guys cussing, not like at her, but just like a reflex, like she, blah, 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 blah. And they talk, I'm like, yo, you're addressing a judge who has the power to release you or detain you. I've seen her have to threaten, I've never seen this happen, but I saw her have to threaten several times to pass somebody's arraignment a week just because they wouldn't stop mouthing off back to her, because the guy before, who is, I don't think he's gonna return to court, but he got released. The other person who came after got caught in a lie where the prosecutor pointed out, the reason why he missed that court date, that timetable doesn't work out. Technically, he wasn't in treatment at that time, and he got caught like lying, and then he was like super aggrieved, he was mouthing off, and then she had to threaten to pass his case a week because of the reaction. So I don't have the answer to people just being nicer to each other, but she's got a tough job.
She does have a tough job.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to be the administrative judge in criminal court.
Yeah.
I don't think people have any clue what she goes through. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And in addition, she was writing this report.
Yeah, and she gets it. Anybody who wants to take the time to read that report will understand that she gets it. And I don't think, did she take full credit? It was
her and Judge Trader.
But I felt like her fingerprints were the main ones, or at least that was the scoops.
That's her job, right? She's the administrative judge. She deals with the 3-day bail reports. She deals with everybody, the arraignments, like you just discussed. So, you know, she's in it every day, all day. And
she sees the people. And one last thing that's disheartening, sometimes people, they decline to participate in the bail study. So we talk about, we got to get this bail study ready. We got to assess the risk. What happens when somebody refuses to simply answer and we make it all academic. Oh, it's a bail study. It's a bail report. It's a questionnaire. Right. And some people refuse to answer a damn question to help themselves.
You know, we cannot help people that don't want to help themselves. Yeah. These bail reports are for the benefit of the person in custody.
Yes.
If they don't want to answer the questions, they can sit there. I had a client like that, you know, and he sat there for 2 years before we got a hung jury on his Rob 1. But he wouldn't answer questions. He wouldn't give information. I mean,
what do you do, right?
We can't do anything about that.
I don't know what you do about that. So enough cash bail stuff. So.
What did you do? Take notes on everybody's answers?
Oh God, way too much.
Oh my God, that's great. I'm having a hard time watching it.
So I'm gonna play campaign counsel, and I'm gonna say what my dream answers were. Okay. So the Kealoha disaster, and I mean the Kaneshiro / Kealoha disaster. I'll be upfront. I think the solution is term limits. There's got to be 2 term limits, and my stance is 1, if Prosecutor Kau becomes City Prosecutor Kau, whatever you're gonna do, get it done in 8 years, and you should be able to have a legacy that lives on, or train, deputies that lives on. You should be able to get your job done in 8 years, because if we have the flip side, which is a bad city prosecutor who employs bad deputies, oh my God, Kaneshiro had 5 terms. We can't, if it had just been 2, maybe the Kealoha thing doesn't happen. I don't know.
Okay.
What do you say on that?
I am glad you're asking about this, because people are all over the spectrum on this. 2 things. Number 1, this happened in Keith's 2nd term. I understand he was there for 3 terms before, but that was separated by 14 years of Peter Carlisle. No allegation of misconduct. No allegation of anything, right? I mean, he ran a well-oiled machine, and people, I think, loved him as a prosecutor. He was there for 14 years, and there was nothing wrong. I mean, I'm talking about misconduct, right? So the fact that Keith was there prior to these 2 terms, really, it was a supervening, intervening course of action, right? Peter being there for the 14 years, because whatever Keith had done 14 years prior didn't carry on to these 2 recent terms.
Yeah.
It was all new people. It's not like he had an inside track and he was running that inside track for 14 years while he wasn't there. Things had become very different. So if you actually look at it, he was in his 2nd term when all of this stuff happened. Okay, so putting a 2-year term or a 2-term limit on the prosecutor wouldn't necessarily fix this, because he was effectively in his 2nd term, notwithstanding the fact that he was there 14 years prior, right? The second thing is, and this is the most important and most crucial part of limiting the term of the prosecutors. Okay, anyone can run for mayor. Anyone can run for governor. Anyone can run for city council. Anyone can run for legislature. You don't have to be qualified. You have to be a voting citizen of Hawaii or Honolulu. Prosecutor's office, not the same thing. You have to be, quote, actively involved in criminal cases, end quote, 3 out of the past 10 years. That's the requirement. You have to be within good standing with the HSBA for 5 years, and you have to be, quote, actively involved in criminal cases. Now, this doesn't mean, and the Corporation Council has given an opinion on this, this doesn't mean you take 1 speeding case, 1 theft case, 1 DUI case, and in 3 years now you're actively involved in criminal cases. That's not what that means. It means you have to take enough criminal cases to be well informed and well involved in the criminal justice system, almost as if you were a deputy prosecutor working 40 hours on a criminal case. That's the standard, okay? Let's break it down a little bit more. There are 11,000 lawyers in the state of Hawaii. If you consolidate that just to Oahu, you probably have about 8,000, right? Because the other lawyers are practicing off island or are in the mainland and not actually practicing on Oahu. So now, out of that 8,000, how many of those do you think practice criminal law?
Not a few hundred?
Maybe 2,000.
Okay.
Maybe. The rest of the lawyers are practicing civil laws. They're employed by big firms. They definitely don't take any criminal cases, let alone are actively involved in criminal cases. So, whereas in the mayor's race, you can pull from 1 million people or 900,000, now the prosecutor's race, you're pulling from 2,000. Of those 2,000, how many you think want to be a politician? How many you think want to go out in this public?
It's tough.
And say, oh my God, she worked here when she was 15 years old. Oh my God, she did this when she was younger. Oh my, you know what I mean?
The scrutiny is unbelievable.
And now, oh my goodness, who was she at dinner with last night? What function did she go to? I mean, the public attention of being a public figure is devastating for most people. And I got thick skin, so people can say whatever they want, but it's difficult. So now, of those 2,000 people, how many you think are going to run for prosecutor?
A dozen. I think it's a very unique skill set.
It's a very unique skill set. So, and again, I'll say, I'm going to preface this next comment with everybody that was on that stage, the 5 candidates. They are all very good people, all very intelligent people, okay? But I'm going to break this down for you just to show you a little bit more, okay? Out of those 5 people, 3 of them have been deputy prosecutors. So let's put the other 2 on the side because they've never been at the prosecutor's office. One of those 3, Steve Alm, he was there 25 years ago. He hasn't tried a case as a deputy prosecutor for 25 years. Can you imagine not practicing a skill set for 25 years and then trying to jump back on and do it again? It's difficult, okay? The second person is me, and then the third person is RJ Brown. He's been gone for almost 2 years now. By the next election, he won't be qualified to run for prosecutor because he will not have been actively involved in criminal cases 3 out of the past 10 years. So now you're looking at the leftover people that can run. Taewon Kim, never been a prosecutor. Jacqueline Esser, never been a deputy prosecutor. So now, let's say in 8 years, we have another election for a prosecutor. Those 2 people run. Who are you going to vote for? So, it's a rhetorical question. I think the world of everybody running, I believe everybody is trying to do a good job, loves their community. But when you talk about limiting the term for the prosecutor's race, you're dealing with a very different type of skill set and a very different type. This is not a political position. It's an elected position because in the 80s, a group of lawyers got together and said, hey, look, Frank Fossey is not appointing someone that's going to actually investigate him. We think there's corruption going on. We're going to change the city charter for the prosecutor's office to be elected now instead of appointed. And they got everyone to vote. And now it's an elected position, but it is not a political position, right? It's not a position where the prosecutor can come in and say, oh, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you, or I'm going to take care of you and I'm not going to take care of you. It is not a political position. It is an elected position. And so I think people need to look at it differently. When that vote comes up on the ballot this year to determine whether the prosecutor's race should be, or the prosecutor's term should be limited, people need to step back, look at the facts a little bit differently. It's not a political position.
So I think that's a very good example of how like somebody could get lawyered and then you could like flip them. Because I thought I had a very sound position. You know what I mean? I thought I had it right. But so that happened when I did a podcast with Miles Briner, and I'm not like pro prostitution, like legalize it. But then towards the end of the podcast, all of a sudden I was agreeing with him that we should have like legalized prostitution. So I think the people just got a show right then and there of the lawyering skills. But okay, so I guess we got to the term limits one. We'll move on now to maybe something I'll win. What would you do to make sure that, you know, Native Hawaiian populations aren't overrepresented in the criminal justice system? Or quite frankly, what are your thoughts on how that happened? And I guess I'll go first. When you separated out what the job of the prosecutor was, it's to objectively like prosecute based on the facts. My idea was you're never going to get anywhere helping out like the Native Hawaiian community by like trying to make the prosecutor, who it's their job to look at the detective's report or the police officer's report and determine if there's probable cause to like charge somebody with a crime and keep the public safe. That's a stupid argument that let me be nice here about it. That's not a very good argument to like help out that population. What I think needs to happen more is community involvement. Each different community has to have a change in the policing of that community, so that, you know, if boyfriend, girlfriend amping out and somebody calls the police, instead of like the automatic report and somebody gets arrested, maybe there's a way that the police officer could be part mediator, you know, recommend services, recommend anger management. And then everybody in Hawaii knows everybody. So if you get local officers who know that area, I cannot tell you how many times I happen to know an officer because I train jiu-jitsu and I'm looking for somebody. Oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, I know the uncle. Oh, I know the brother. They know who the bad apples are. Right. The local officers know who the local bad apples are. If we policed differently and didn't automatically assume that report had to be made and then forcing your hand to prosecute them, maybe that'd be a different way to get people to like incentivize cooling off, maybe stepping away and not getting into that fight, maybe not yelling. Like, I think there's a way that we could police to lower it. What say you?
Okay, so that would be all great and fine in the perfect world, but
I'm a dreamer. Yeah.
you got to look at who our police officers are. And I'll tell you, I represent a lot of police officers as defendants. I mean, I don't take low-level crimes for anyone unless they're police officers. All my other crimes are murders or rapes. Police officers are people too. Yeah, they make mistakes. They're trained a certain way. They're not trained a certain way. I think that's a good idea if the person at the top can pull that off. Meaning if the person at the top can create a community within HPD to make sure that police officers are compassionate, understanding, and able to counsel people. But, I mean, my opinion is that they're not equipped for that. They're not trained that way. They deal with a lot of stuff on the street that people don't see that are very difficult for most people to deal with. I think it's very difficult for a police officer to be in a relationship with someone that's not in the criminal justice system, because that significant other has no clue what a police officer goes through every single day. To have to add on, be a counselor on top of what they do would be very difficult, I think. I mean, I applaud the idea, and I think that's the kind of outward thinking that we all as a community have to discuss and talk about and contemplate. But putting that kind of thing into action takes a lot more. Everything comes from the top, and I think Susan Ballard's doing a very good job. I think she's got to, and she's not going to be there for very long. My understanding is she's coming out after one term.
Oh.
So.
Did you just break that on my podcast?
That's my understanding.
That's the scoops?
That's the scoops, yeah.
Okay.
And so now you're going to have a different person at the top, a different corporate culture, right? Different. Every time someone at the top changes, the culture inside changes, even if it's good culture, right? So I think that's a great idea, yeah. The second part of that is, my answer is not to please people. I'm not trying to earn votes, you know. I'm trying to give the community an option for a prosecutor that prosecutes cases. If I'm not kind of, you know, I say things to make people like me, like I kind of just say what is true. Yeah, so that is my answer. You have to objectively apply the laws. It's very important for a prosecutor to be objective. Once I start looking at the police report and saying, oh, he's Native Hawaiian, but he's Chinese. Okay, I'm gonna let the Native Hawaiian person go.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the concern that Hawaiians are overrepresented in prisons and jails, but that is not the prosecutor's problem to fix. It's a socioeconomic problem that we as a community has to deal with. And this is what I will say. If you have a prosecutor that's doing a good job, that is running a good office, now the prosecutor can be involved in community affairs, start talking to other people and leading other programs. But first and foremost, we gotta fix that office. Now, if I have the time and we're running a well-oiled machine and we're back on track and we have policies and procedures in place and the deputies are doing well and morale is up, now the prosecutor can take a bigger role in our community and start dealing with all the other things, right? If that person is trusted and if people like that person's opinion, then we can start doing that. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so I'll try to modify my thoughts on that and be more realistic after hearing that as well. Because, no, I mean, because I have lots of cop friends, and what we all do, because it's Hawaii and everybody knows everybody, but what we could do is giving the card to the guy or the gal who needs counseling, and depending on them to like reach out and to do it the voluntary way, very low percentage. If there was like the victim's advocate sitting shotgun with the cop, maybe, but then that's a lot of money, that's a lot, I mean,
it's not just that.
I don't know the logistics.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So I'm a domestic violence survivor. I was there, okay? I'll tell you, when I was 20 years old and a cop had come up and said, are you okay? And there had been a victim witness sitting with her, I would have just said, I don't need to listen to you. Who are you? why are you here? Why are you telling me what to do? I know what's good for myself. What I will tell you is families and friends can be very instrumental in dealing with domestic violence or drug addiction. I mean, that's really where everyone has to start. It's very easy for family to say, well, we tried, now it's not working, so we're going to kick them out, and it's, tough love. I think families and friends can do a little bit better. And I know it's very difficult. I've been there. But especially with mental health, here's mental health is such a big deal to me, okay? So people that are suffering from mental health disorders self-medicate a lot, right? Because it's difficult to hear voices. It's difficult to be depressed, not want to get up out of the bed. And so to self-medicate helps for a short time, right? And so families and friends often think that this is a drug problem, when in fact, it really is a mental health problem. A lot of people suffer from mental health disorder. If you can be a little bit more understanding, a little bit more helpful, a little bit more active in the person's life in getting the treatment, I think that will help. Because a police officer rolling up and saying, you need help, come with me, I'm going to get you help.
That don't work.
It ain't going to work. Yeah. There's no rapport, there's no relationship. So I think as a community, we have to shift our thinking.
Yeah, and it's too convenient to be like, oh, well, let's shift the responsibility onto the government and then hope that the government worker can work miracles and get something like that done. I don't know, you're probably right. It has to be the friends and family who have that rapport. And hearing it from that voice of somebody that you trust, or that mentor, or that coach, or that whoever, that is probably a lot more productive than, oh, you got to go do this. I get it. So I'm going to send you out on one last one. Let's see in my notes if I got anything that I want to bring up. Let's see. Yeah, we talked a lot of stuff already.
I can't believe how many notes you took.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really good.
I'm trying here. Well, all our cameras are turning off, so I think that might be a good closing time. So thank you very much for coming out and doing the podcast. You really stepped up. You helped open my eyes to a lot of things that I had missed, and I could be a dreamer of some sort and just wanting to do better, and pointing out how to do things and the details of how to do things was really productive for me to hear as well. So thank you very much for coming on, and when you become prosecutor, try not to be a stranger, okay?
Thank you, Nick.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Right on.